What up, Kings? Hope you're well. In this video, I want to talk about how the loneliness epidemic is going to affect the advertising business as well as programmatic. As somebody who travels a lot now, it's so much easier for me to see what's going on. Everything is so clear. So first, let me say this. It's not easy to see the full picture unless you're outside of the frame. When you're inside of the frame, it's very difficult for you to see the big picture. So you almost have to remove yourself from that frame. That frame being the United States or the West. Go somewhere else, then come back. Go somewhere else, and then come back. And you're going to see these things happening so clearly. As a marketer, my job is to analyze trends and ensure that any campaigns that are run are going to be the best campaign. So that requires me to do my research, to do my analysis, connect the dots, and really see what's going on so that my campaigns can deliver. So here's what I'm noticing. There's a chronic level of loneliness in this country, and it's just getting worse by the day. It's really tragic. It's sad to see it this way because people are just operating as normal, as if it's normal. No, it's not normal. There's nothing normal about this. Human beings were not designed to live alone. There's no way. If you travel to Southeast Asia, if you travel to Africa where I live now part-time, you will see people live in communities. I live in a village now. In my village, we have about 8 people that live in my village. I'll share some of that with you guys one day. But yeah, there are 8 of us in my village. We live in this community where we share resources. And what I mean resources is not necessarily money. I'm the one that makes all the money there. What I'm saying is we share human resources, labor. Labor is shared. I got 2 kids now, so when my wife is too tired to take care of the kids, there's somebody else that can come in and help out. But here, I don't see that. And instead, what people are doing is they're putting their kids into daycare. It's been happening for years, but I think it's just getting worse and worse. As the cost of living gets worse and worse, it's not sustainable anymore if you're only relying on one income. But in other parts of the world, that labor is distributed amongst a lot of people. So somebody that doesn't have a job will be able to care for the elderly or the kids. That's how human beings are supposed to live. This right here is very weird to me. The way this chronic loneliness epidemic affects the advertising business is that it makes planning much more difficult, and also it makes these consumers become hyper-consumer. When you're living by yourself and all you have is money, the only thing you can do is buy things to fill that void. To fill that void that should be filled by friends, family, acquaintances, people you truly love. So you fill that void with material stuff, like new cars, new purses, new gadgets. And 90% of that stuff you don't really need like that. I used to buy stuff that I don't need for a long time, and I didn't understand why I would buy stuff that I would look at 2 years later and be like, oh, I don't really need this crap. That's what's happening right now in this society. So you have a society now that's consuming more than ever, but with this new administration, it's not going to happen like that. Austerity is coming. There's a ceiling to that hyperconsumption. It means that at some point, these consumers stop being good audience segments because they're out of money, or they can't access credit, or their credit lines are limited. But what is sustainable, in my opinion, as a marketer, is to focus on the audience segments that have longevity, to focus on the long term. Even though people are not starting families here anymore, there's still communities that are having families, that are starting families, that value families. If you look at, for example, the Orthodox community, the Orthodox Jewish communities in Brooklyn, New York, they got big families still. They're very protective of their culture. So you'll see a Jewish family with like 3 or 4 kids still in Brooklyn, New York. When everybody else is not having kids, they're having kids. Let's look at the Mormon community, the Mormons. The Mormons are not hyper-consumers, but they're having tons of babies. They're parts of the South, the rural South, that are still having family because they own big swaths of land. I think marketers should really focus on those guys because those guys are going to be long-term spenders because they know how to save their money and they don't buy junk. They buy things they absolutely need, and when they do make purchases, they don't buy things that are cheap. For example, when they buy a car, they're buying a fancy, expensive car. One-time every 5 years compared to somebody who buys a car every 2 years. You'll find like a single person who's unmarried, they're buying a brand new car every 2 years. But somebody that lives in rural South would buy an F-150 Ford truck, and they'll buy cash, by the way. And these are people that know how to save money. They understand the value of money. While car dealerships are targeting all these people that live in the big cities, they're going to discover really fast that these are not going to be the people that are going to buy their cars. And I think marketers are not really paying attention to these audience segments, these niche audience segments. If you focus on the rural population that doesn't have mortgages, the land is paid up, they probably inherited their land from their parents. I was watching a YouTube video the other day of this guy. He's a retired truck driver. You might call him a hillbilly or whatever, but it doesn't matter what you call him. But guess what? This guy's got money, okay? This guy's got so much money. Let me tell you what he does. He inherited a lot of land from his family here in the mountains of Georgia. Everything that he does is self-sustainable. He has solar there, so he doesn't rely on the grid. He's got a water supply on his land. He doesn't pay utilities. And he's a producer. Everything he produces, he sells to the community because he knows everybody else can't produce what he can. And everybody needs what he has. So every single dime that he makes goes into his pockets, into his savings. These are the guys that we used to laugh at 10, 15 years ago. Those guys got more money than people in the city because they got no bills. He lives in the countryside. He lives in the mountains, completely isolated from society. But he's got all the money, laughing at you guys in the city. The other thing about this loneliness epidemic is it's creating niche echo chambers. Let me explain. When I observe the way my wife watches content on YouTube and the way my kids consume content, everybody has their own niche that they like, and the algorithms cater to them. So we're all controlled by algorithms now. So even with the content that I watch of the hillbilly in the mountain, my feed is being recommended with these guys that are just traveling the country. They don't want anything to do with society, but they got money. So all they do is just travel from city to city, and they're campers and living like kings, living a simple life of luxury. And these guys have got a lot of money. The issue with these guys is they're very hard to target, even though they have their money, because they're putting all their money into crypto, they're saving a lot, and they can afford to pay for a brand new car cash, but they see no reason to. Because remember something, men and women are very different in the way we behave. When a man gets money, he looks to start a family. When a woman gets money, she looks to leave the family. That's how it works. Understanding these dynamics as a marketer, if you ignore this basic human nature, your campaigns will never convert. Your campaigns will never work. With these audiences becoming very strange, and where the people that actually have the money are not spending, your messaging to these guys is going to have to be very creative. You're going to have to tell the stories that these guys can relate to in order for them to buy your products or services. Because they don't trust anybody right now. The same way that I don't trust a lot of people, they don't trust a lot of people. So they're not going to give out their data like that. Even the way you get them is going to have to be very creative. I hope you got some value from this video. If you're ready to work with the best of the best in the business, to get all your campaigns, start delivering, start converting, schedule time. I'll put a link in the description of this video. Let's talk about it. I'll talk to you soon.